I have Shabbat Shalom. Good morning. Let's do it again. So, this Shabbat is a monumental Shabbat in the Jewish calendar, in that today, on Erev Shabbat, as our sages tell us, he who exerts himself on Erev Shabbat will eat on Erev Shabbat. Therefore, the fact that today, Erev Shabbat Kodesh, Pashas Kedoshim, marks the second day of the month of Iyar, Beit Iyar, is a truly monumental day in our calendar and is blessed by this Shabbat Kodesh that's coming up. And that is today, in the year 1834, the Rebbe Maharash was born. The fourth Lubavitch Rebbe, Rabbeinu Shmuel, was born. And being that today is the Rebbe's birthday, and Nasi of Israel, that the head of the Jewish people's birthday, and we know that the Nasi has an internal influence, that a Jewish leader has an internal influence over those who are connected to him. Therefore, it's well worth to learn a little bit of his Torah, a little bit of his teachings in order to connect. It's because, as our Talmudic sages teach us, is on one's birthday, mazalo gover, one's one's mazal increases. And obviously, the Rebbe, the Nasi of Israel, the head of the Jewish people's mazal, is Mashiach. And we know, as we discussed in the past, that every one of the Lubavitcher Rebbeim, the entire purpose was to draw the Shekhinah lower and lower, and each one had a service, a particular service through which they were known for, in drawing the Shekhinah lower and lower, in order to make, as we spoke about many times, Dira lo bisachtanima, that Hashem desires a dwelling place within and below. In other words, that Hashem will inhabit the lowliest of low, the earth, the world, as we learned about in Shabbat, that the ultimate olam haba, the ultimate world to come, is the world of the resurrection, when Mashiach will come. And so each one of the Rebbeim worked and toiled and instructed all those who followed them to toil in that direction in order to draw the Shekhinah lower and lower, and ultimately which will culminate in the coming of Mashiach immediately now. And so the Rebbe Maharash's famous teaching, as brought down in the book Hayom Yom, that our Rebbe compiled, and the Rebbe brought from a talk from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that the Rebbe Maharash had a foundational axiom. And not just an axiom, but literally the way he conducted himself. As the Rebbe Maharash would say, that the world says that if encountering an obstacle of any sorts, where there's physical, spiritual, emotional, etc., etc. So if someone encounters an obstacle, and if they cannot circumvent it one direction or another, try to climb over it. Try to go over it. But I say, the Rabbi Maharash says, lechatchila riber, to begin with, take the higher road. To begin with, go over it. In other words, don't try to circumvent, don't try to wrestle with it, don't try to push it, and so on and so forth. Lechatchila, to begin with, go over. And this in itself is known as a Baal Shem's conduct. This is a Baal Shem Tov type of conduct, a miraculous, beyond the world type of approach to the world in itself. And let's delve into this a little bit. The Rebbe explains, what does it mean, lechatchila ariba? To begin with, we have to go above. Because every word, when the Rebbe teaches, is Torah. And every word, therefore, is exact. So the Rebbe didn't say, take the higher road. The Rebbe said, lechatchila, to begin with, go over. Well, what does that mean? So the Rebbe explains, hatchala, the beginning, as soon as a person approaches any type of challenge in their life, the first at the base of the approach has to already be a riba, or it has to be an approach of above. What does that mean? Even though there are two general manners to deal with the world and with the challenges, and both are assigned to us from the Torah, both are in the Torah itself. There is anhaga, there is a conduct of seder v'hadraga, there's a conduct of order and structure, that everything is incremental and you take one step at a time, sequentially, and so on and so forth. And that's one very healthy approach that the Torah tells us, and we spoke about many times throughout our classes. But then there is anhaga shel dilug. There's an anhaga of leaping, ariber, above, lemayla miser v'adraga, above all the order of calculation, above the standard quo. And there is, even according to the Torah, there is an approach that takes one step at a time, and you have to look and be conservative with the way you're walking, with the way you're thinking, the way you're talking, and certainly the way you're dealing with the world in itself. The world, olam milashon ha'elam, concealment. And then if things don't work out, then try to take the higher approach. But here we have an instruction that the Rebbe says the world. The Rebbe doesn't mean the world that the world at large. We're talking about even the world that's prescribed by the Torah says this. But nevertheless, the Rebbe is saying, but I say, the Rebbe Marash says, that, and this gives and empowers each and every one of us as his followers, as his disciple who receive from him, and especially on his birthday, Beit Iyar, the second day of Iyar, that we could begin with, as soon as we notice a difficulty, a challenge, to take the lachatchila riba approach, the above the calculation, above the orderly fashion of dealing with. Take the higher road to begin with. We explained this many times, but let's just say that this is us, and we're walking on the path of the road in our life. And everything is standard quo over here. And Hashem decides that He wants us even higher right now. He wants us to climb. He wants us to increase in our intensity, our strength, and certainly grow in ourselves, in our practices. How does Hashem tell us this? How does Hashem communicate this desire? And not only desire, for Hashem desire, it means we already have the power. He endowed us with the power to grow. So how do we grow at this point? So the Hashem would put a challenge right in front of you, in which you can no longer go forward. You can't continue the same manner. And if you try to avert it or to circumvent it, it won't allow you to. All it will do is tire you out. So l'chatchila, to begin with, the Rebbe says, then the only approach is to go above the challenge, above the difficulty. In other words, if Hashem wants you to be here, how does He tell you that He wants you to be here? If you're here, He puts this in front of you, and there's no way to circumvent or traverse this without climbing over it, leaping over it.
I have a question about that. So inherent in that is the idea of coming up and down, right? Because if you're always above.
Hold on one second. So l'chatchila, we have to take this approach. And this is what the Nasi gives us, l'chatchila riba, to give us the ability that as soon as we encounter a challenge of any sort in our personal lives, and how much more so on a global level, we can't try to calculate with the world in itself. We have the power to l'chatchila go above it, take the highest road possible with it. Because that's why Hashem puts this challenge in front of you. Not to, God forbid, stymie or suppress or hurt, but rather because this is an indication that Hashem believes in our ability to leap. So that's the first thing that we learn from this. And number two is being that the conduct is l'chatchila, to begin with, is a riba, to begin with is above. Then this is only the beginning. But one must take into consideration and remember that being that we began higher, we need to know that this is only the beginning. But afterwards, we must strive to leap higher and higher, leap in comparison to the previous leap. That every single step is another leap upwards. And this is given to us as a strength from a Nasi of Israel, the Rebbe Maharash. That each and every one of us are given the ability to leap, literally leap over whatever challenges that Hashem puts in front of us. As a matter of fact, just parenthetically, Reb David ben Yankel Yosef and Drezel's Yortzeit is coming up within a week. And it was Reb David who approached the Rebbe in 1950. This is before the Rebbe took the formal mantle of leadership. And at Beit Nisan, towards Beit Nisan, the second day of Nisan, which is the Rebbe, the fifth Lubavitcher Rebbe's birthday, Yortzeit, Hilula, then the Rebbe, Reb David approached the Rebbe and asked him to bring for the Tamimim, for the Bacharim. And the Rebbe responded that right now is not the most opportune time. It's a very, very busy time. In 1 month from now, I'll bring. And the Rebbe then had his first Farbrengen with the Tmimim, with the student of Tomchei Tmimim on Beit Iyar in 1950. In which the Rebbe, when he came in, he sort of jumped over one of the tables. Had to climb over a table, and over there the Rebbe started this generation. In which the Rebbe says the focus of this generation is to connect to the Nasi, because if we're connected to the top, we don't fall to the bottom, and whatever we're connected to and whatever it's connected to is going to stream into us. And number two, avodah matzmo, one must continuously strive and literally, practically work on themselves in character refinement, in personal growth, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, and this was the distinguishing mark of our Rebbe, which the Rebbe introduced in that Farbrengen, avodat imazulat, to work on the other. It's not enough that we work on ourselves and that we refine ourselves and we personally grow and so on and so forth, but we must, as a Rebbe, put into place in that Farbrengen, must reach out to those outside of ourselves in order to help them leap as well. Several years later, on the same date, 1956, the Rebbe spoke about the need for an organization called Lubavitch Youth Organization to be established here in America, where, as Reb David told me, because when I first started working with him, I noticed in Lubavitch Youth Organizations there are not too many kids, not too many youth, but mostly mid and older Hasidim. So Reb David told me, and this is what the Rebbe explained in the Sikha, that it's important to retain your youth and your vigor, and to utilize it and no matter how old you are, but to retain the youth and the vigor and the energy, and to utilize it and to transform the world to be a holy and luminescent place for Hashem. And so based on that Farbrengen, Reb David founded Lubavitch Youth Organization on Beit Iyar, which is the institution that oversees all the Chabad houses, all the Chabad institutions in New York, and the institution which was responsible to mete out the miftzahim, the campaigns of the Rebbe in New York and outwards. Anyway, so this day, and we could understand that the Rebbe began this generation, so to say, the first formal Farbrengen with the Tmimim, with the students on Beit Iyar, because this generation is a generation of leaping, as we are seeing. That we don't incrementally grow. This generation leaps from one bounce to the other, for higher and higher. And certainly in our service, each and every one of us, especially that today is Rebbe Maharash's birthday, and gives us the strength to accomplish, we could literally make a decision today and on Shabbat during our Farbrengus to leap over whatever challenges we have in order to bring Mashiach on our personal level to redeem ourselves. In other words, sometimes we say to ourselves, I wish I can do this, I wish one day, I wish I could apologize, I wish I could say this, I wish I could take this. But it's not the time, it's not the space. Rebbe gives us today a strength to leap over. I was once in a Farbrengen about 22 years ago, and I heard a very interesting take on this, that although the previous Rebbe says that the Rebbe Maharash is the one that teaches this axiom, when you learn the Rebbe Maharash's Torah, Maimarim, and so on and so forth, we don't really see that throughout the Maimarim. You don't see that. Yes, we know that the Rebbe Maharash, this was the Rebbe Maharash's conduct and so on and so forth, but the one that really is the one that took this Lachatchila Riba approach and made it the foundation of the way we serve Hashem was the Rebbe. The Rebbe sort of wanted to blame the Rebbe Maharash for this, but really this is the Rebbe's approach, the Lachatchila Riba, that you leap from strength to strength. Obviously, as we're going to see, it's not neglectful, it's not reckless, but nevertheless, it's a leap from strength to strength. One leap after another leap after another leap. Let's connect this, however, the Rebbe says. This is a talk from 1990, Shabbat Gimel Iyar, 1990, Tafshinun. The Rebbe says, let's connect this first. Let's connect the Rebbe Maharash's special approach, Lachatchila Riber, to his birthday on Beit Iyar. The special phenomena that occurs in the month of Iyar, that every single day is connected to a special, unique mitzvah. That unlike all the months before or after, including Nisan, which we just came off from, the month of miracles, which we were redeemed from Egypt, and including Sivan, the month that precedes Iyar, which is the third month in which we receive our Torah in Mount Sinai. But unlike all the months prior or after, this is the only month that every day is connected to a mitzvah, the mitzvah of Sfirat Omer. And what does Sfirat Omer teach us? It's known that the Korban of the Omer, the Sfirat Omer, the counting of the Omer, was launched the morning after we gave the Korban Pesach. I'm sorry, the Korban of the Omer, which is we spoke about in the previous class that the Omer Korban was to take a bushel of barley, which was the first of the crops in Israel to grow, and as a gratitude toward Hashem for the blessing of growth, the agriculturists would bring it to the Mishkan or to the Beit HaMikdash as a tribute to Hashem. But on a Kabbalistic level, as we discussed, the barley offering is connected to the refinement of the animalistic characteristics, the egocentric emotions. That from that point, each day we start counting, we start illuminating our animalistic characteristics, our egocentric emotions. And that's why, as we spoke about several times already, there are 49 days between the second day of Pesach and Shavuot, because what's the numbers 49? It's 7 general emotion, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. There are 7 general emotions, and each emotion, as we discussed prior, has to be refined by being inclusive of all the other emotions. So the emotion itself will be truly luminescent. In other words, this is a very orderly service. We start with Chesed of Chesed, on the first day, and then we move up to Gvurav Chesed, and each day we work on one particular nuance within the general emotion until we complete the general emotion, then we move to the next emotion. And this week, as we learned, we started the emotion, the attribute of Tiferet, of beauty, of harmony. And today we're Tiferet Shebet Tiferet, harmony within harmony, beauty within beauty, compassion within compassion. As we're going to be speaking about during the Farbrengen. But here we find a very orderly service, not of leaping, of order, set of adraga, until we come to its completion on the 50th day. So now we have to understand when a phenomena occurs on a certain date, in a certain time frame, it means there's a connection between the phenomena and the date. And here we have the Rebbe Maharash's birthday, Beit Iyar, in the beginning of this month, right in the beginning of the month of Iyar, the day right after Rosh Chodesh. And so how do we reconcile that the Rebbe Maharash's approach is L'chatchila Riber, leaps and bounds, jump and jump, to the very fact that he was born in the month when everything is orderly. In the commandment of Sfiras Omer, where the verbiage says, "Usfartem achem imacharas Shabbat, miyom aviyachem es omat nufa." You should count for yourselves from the morning after Shabbat. Morning after Shabbat over here does not imply the actual day of Shabbat, although originally it was Shabbat. But over here, it was the day after. What it means, as our sages explains, from the morning after Pesach. Yom Tov is considered a Shabbat of sorts. So, but why, unlike all the other holidays or all the other instructions, time-based instructions, when the Torah gives us the actual date on which to celebrate? For example, with Rosh Hashanah, we're told on the first day of the 7th month, that we should blow the shofar. On this 10th day of the 7th month, which is Yom Kippur, we have to afflict ourselves. And so on and so forth. In other words, the Torah gives us the exact date. But over here, it doesn't tell us a date. It says from the morning after Shabbat. Why not just tell us from the morning after Pesach, which is the 16th of Nisan? We have to understand, why is it? What is the connection between Sfira Omer and Pesach? Why does it have to be launched by Pesach in itself? Pesach, as we learned before, the entire purpose of Pesach is, as its name, pass over, to leap over, to transcend, to get over. That means this is a riber, to take the higher road. Because when you think about it, and we spoke about before, technically, we didn't want to leave. Technically, we were so submerged in the Egyptian muck, in the 49th gate of Tumah, that as it were, God himself, had he tarried even for an extra second, couldn't take us out. And so 1 second we were in the darkest of the dark, and the next we were taking out, but Or Ein Sof itself, as it says, Ani velo malach, as it says that Hashem says, and we said it in the Haggadah, Hashem says, I came to rescue you, I came to take you, me and not an angel, me and not a seraph, and so on and so forth, me and not an agent, me and no one else. In other words, in 1 second, we were trapped in the darkness, in the abyss of Egypt, of Meitzarim Megvulim, Avadim Ayinu Lefarao B'Mitzrayim. We were slaves to the darkest of the dark. We were addicted to it. We were wallowing in the muck. And the very next second, Or Ein Sof, Hashem himself comes and takes us out. The essence of Hashem, not just already, the essence of Hashem comes and takes us out. This was a leap. This was a leap of a leap. We find this also with Yosef, by the way. There's a connection, and during Sukkot, the Rebbe, there's a connection between the Rebbe Marash and Yosef, and the Rishpizin, in one way of counting. And that we see with Yosef, when we discussed it during the Farbrang, is that Yosef, in one second, he was trapped in a dungeon, sold by his brothers, and so on and so forth, a world that was completely shattered, with no objective goal of ever leaving. No one was coming to rescue him. 1 second, he was in the darkest of the dark, in the dungeon of Egypt. And the very next second, he was taken out and promoted to be a viceroy, second in command of the world's biggest superpower. There was no climbing a corporate ladder. This was lachatchila riber. He took the lachatchila riber approach. Pesach, and the entire purpose of Pesach is a climb, is a leap. And immediately after we leap, immediately after we are taken out of Egypt, as we discussed the classes before Pesach, that on Pesach we're not just celebrating an historical precedence event that occurred 3,346 years ago, but rather something that occurs on a daily basis. And every day Hashem takes us out of Egypt. And every day we must push ourselves further out of Egypt. So immediately after accomplishing this leap, we went immediately to start counting, to illuminating. Because the godly soul was released, but the animal soul and its emotions were still intact. So right after the godly soul was released in a leap manner, immediately this has to be integrated and affect the animalistic emotions day by day. That this leap that we accomplished on Pesach is now drawn on a day-to-day basis throughout the Sphira itself, throughout the counting. In other words, that we could draw this leap within our consciousness and then leap upwards on a day-to-day basis in self-refinement, character refinement. That maybe previous to Pesach, to work on our emotional stance, vulnerabilities and love and compassion and discipline, maybe it would have been too much. Maybe there were too many impediments in our way. Maybe we were getting in our own way, because that's the ultimate impediment that we have. As in AA, they give you a sticker to put on your bathroom mirror, so when you brush your teeth, you'll see it. You're now looking at the biggest dilemma of your entire day. So maybe we get in our own way sometimes. But on Pesach and henceforth, for the next month, and more than that, we're given the ability to leap from one attribute to another. But in other words, to refine each attribute in a leaping manner. And as we see that we don't count there are two ways of counting. There is the orderly and there's an inclusive. Orderly is 1, 2, 3, 4, and inclusive is first, second, third, fourth. We don't count the Sphira in an orderly way. Today is day number 1. Today's day number 2. We count today's the first day, the second day. Why? To emphasize that each day includes everything that came before it. And to show that each day is a one long succession that began where? From Pesach. And is therefore each day is another leap which began with Pesach, as inclusive of everything that we accomplished thus far. Until we reach the 50th gate, which is on Shavuos. What's the 50th? The 50th we don't count. 50th is the 50th gate in which is beyond the human condition, beyond the human experience. But the thought is that we strive and work to the ultimate limit that we can to push ourselves as far as humanly possible, and then Hashem will take us beyond the human capability. In other words, we leap exponentially. That it says that Moshe Rabbeinu attained the 49th gate on the day that he passed away. And henceforth Hashem, on the 50th, he already climbed above on the last day he climbed above. In other words, this climb is a very, very arduous climb. But here Hashem gives us the ability to climb in leaps. And the final climb, the 50th gate, which is beyond our temperament, beyond our reach, Hashem already carries us above it, the ultimate leap. So we begin with the leap and we conclude this count with the leap. In other words, this leap of Pesach is not just a one-time phenomena. That on Pesach one could leap over their ego and so on and so forth. But then afterwards they go back to the norm, to the standard. But this is a continuous approach, a continuous, from day to day, from moment to moment, that has every moment could be marked by another leap. And from this approach of leaping, a person could fulfill their task and their mission in this world as I was created to serve my master, with all the fine details and the details of the details. Even Sfirat HaOmer, which is very detail-oriented, very nuance-based, but approach it and accomplish it with leaps and further leaps. In other words, right now we have the ability to leap beyond ourselves, beyond whatever emotions we've been carrying with us that are heavy because they were corrupted by the ego, they were corrupted by trauma, by pain, by anger, by sadness, by despondency. But we could leap over it right now. And not just in a one-time fashion, but in a manner that is going to be ongoing and being preserved, only to climb higher and higher with. And this is what we say in the prayer right after we count. For example, today is the 17th day of the Omer, right? Which is 2 weeks and 3 days of the Omer. But as we say immediately afterwards, Ribono Shel Olam, Master of the world. We ask Hashem, may I be, through this count, through the service of this count, may I be purified and sanctified with the supernal holiness. And we bring it to the detail of the detail. And then we conclude with says, to fix or correct the three parts of our soul, the nefesh, ruach, and neshama. In other words, the details within the soul. As we know that the soul has 5 components. 3 are invested within the body. The nefesh is in the blood. The ruach, the spirit, is in the heart, and the shema is in the brain. So to fix these particulars of the soul, and etc., and we continue l'taharenu l'katshenu, and to purify us and to sanctify us with Gdusha Shel Maila, with the supernal holiness, not just any holiness, but the supernal, the ultimate holiness, because holiness has many different degrees to it. So, and we're asking for the most supernal. And we're not going to just finish with that. Ela b'kedusha secha. We don't just say your kedusha b'kedusha secha al yoina. Your supernal holiness. Not just any holiness, not just a supernal holiness, but your supernal holiness. We should be sanctified through this service. Amen. And we can finish the prayer. Amen. Selah. Amen. May be this forever. In other words, an eternal way. There's no greater leap than a human being that is literally part of the below situation. That a human being who is tied into the below is able to leap in such a manner that they become purified and sanctified with Hashem's own holiness. And this service is a preparation for Chag HaShavuot, for the holiday of Shavuot. That through the leaps and the bounds of one's internal state of being, one's own reality, and to draw that into not just, okay, so I'm above myself, but to draw those leaps into every one of our facets, into every one of our emotions, into every one of our dispositions. In a way that the emotions and dispositions should be luminescent and they too should leap. That every single one of the particulars of the emotions, that chesed should be alive and leaping, but the chesed shebechesed, gvura shebechesed, tiferet shebechesed, and so on and so forth. Each one should be done out of a leap. As we discussed before, that chesed shebechesed means to love what the other person loves. It's not enough to say I love you to the person or to love Hashem, but chesed shebechesed, which is day number one, is to love what the other person loves, to align ourselves with what the other person loves, which is very difficult many times because I have what I love. I have my things. I want to show the other person love, but it's difficult to get out of myself and love what this person loves. But over here, as we spoke about in the last few classes, it doesn't mean to assimilate yourself, to lose, but to lend yourself. Because if you love this person, then you should love with this person. So long as, again, it falls within bounds of holiness and healthiness, so on and so forth. But during the entire year, this might be a difficult service. But right now we're given the ability to leap over ourselves to achieve this. So to the next day, gvura, to discipline myself for the love. And the third day, as we said, to harmonize, to blend, and so on and so forth. And each day we spoke about what it meant. Where today the attribute that we're working on is tiferet sheb'tiferet, harmony within harmony, compassion with compassion, or tiferet means beauty. So it's tiferet sheb'tiferet, compassion of compassion, beauty of beauty. That we need to ask ourselves, how do I express my compassion? Compassion by definition has to be limitless. Because it's not an extension of ourselves and our needs, which are defined by our limited perspective. But compassion for another is achieved by having a selfless attitude, a bittul attitude, as we spoke about before. And so we have to ultimately, in order to be compassionate, to express compassion, we must rise beyond ourselves, to get over ourselves, to leap over ourselves, and sort of meld or at least feel the other person's disposition, what they need. Which by definition, in order to be compassionate, we must leap over ourselves. We must get over ourselves. Because if we cannot go over ourselves, it's not really compassion as much as we are trying to be nice to someone else. Today we have to ask what's bothering me. What prevents me from being compassionate? Why can't I really show true compassion? In other words, limitless compassion. I'll be nice, but as much as I'm comfortable with it. Well, that's not compassion. That's being nice with gvura in it. We got to make sure that the compassion stems from a healthy place, not of a place of guilt or shame. But it comes, as we spoke about before, from the base of serving Hashem. That Hashem endowed me with this emotion, and Hashem endowed me with the capacity to act upon this emotion in a situation that requires compassion to come out. It's one of their tools. But not out of a sense of guilt. Because if it comes from guilt, or any other place other than my true self and my need to, and the Hashem's need for me to serve Him with these emotions, then the compassion becomes distorted, as would any other emotions that comes from guilt. To make sure that our compassion is beautiful. That when we're being compassionate, we don't try to get away with the bare minimum, but to make it so beautiful, so intense, so lively, that it should be dancing and leaping in itself. Either way, the Rebbe explains that we're given the ability to leap over ourselves during these days. And this preparation ultimately is preparing us for when we receive the Torah and ultimately for the time of Mashiach. That when Mashiach comes, it's an ultimate leap beyond any reality we could imagine. As we're seeing right now, in the last 70, since the Rebbe took the leadership, the mantle of leadership, and especially at Beit Yar when he jumped over and began the entire generation with the leap. Everything has been leaping, technologically, medicinally, and every single walk, how much Torah has been revealed to us, and so many different platforms and mediums, in a leap and bounds. It's unbelievable. But all of this is just one preparation for the ultimate leap of Mashiach coming immediately today. Let us take upon ourselves for this Shabbat to act in a leaping manner within ourselves. In other words, practically, if we haven't yet lit the Shabbat candles, we should light the Shabbat candles on time. You could check Chabad.org for your local candle lighting time. If we haven't done so, leap, jump, give tzedakah right before. If we haven't yet done so, and you're watching this before Shabbat, take upon yourself to put on tefillin, or at least today, or on Sunday, Monday, to encourage others. If you haven't done so, apologize to those who need to be apologized, or hug those who need to be hugged. Tell those who need to tell that you love them, that they're precious to you. In other words, even if it's difficult, take that leap. Because each and every one of us are intertwined with the world. And therefore, if we take a leap, we're raising the entire world to leap. As the Rebbe said, and in 1987, and we discussed this many times, the Rebbe said in our generation, it's imperative that from now on, this is Purim 1997, the Rebbe says that Geula has to come from above, from below at this point. But the below must leap on a continuous level. And how do we leap? That every single day we increase in one good thought, one good word, and one good deed. In other words, if yesterday I thought one good thought, today I'm going to think two. And tomorrow even three. And from time to time, leap and leap and leap as much as possible. Not to leap, the Rebbe says, doesn't mean to override everything. It means wherever you were, just jump over that. And then one good deed, every single day, one extra good deed. If it's 1 cent, give 2 cents. If it's one good word, say 2 good words. Go find someone that Hashem gives you. You don't have to find, you just have to open up our eyes, because Hashem will give us the opportunity to go and help those around us. And if Rebbe says that each and every one of us takes one good thought extra a day, each and every one of us takes and resolve upon ourselves to increase in one good thought a day, one good word a day, one good act a day, and encourage those around us to do the same. That each and every one of our friends that we could extend to, whether it's in person or digitally, to remind them of how close we are to Mashiach's coming. And any second now, we're going to tip the scale, as the Rambam says, that the world is half good and half bad, and one extra good deed, and everything's balanced exact, and one good deed could tip the scale. And the Rebbe brought this over and over, and certainly in our generation, where it's already past the due date, and certainly everything has been done, and nothing's really holding us. The Rebbe said nothing is holding Mashiach from coming anymore. And not only that, the Rebbe says Mashiach is ready to reveal himself. But we have to open up our eyes. In other words, we have to realize we're not living in exile times. We have powers beyond what we could understand. We have the power to leap with our words, with our thoughts, with our action, notwithstanding all these darknesses. But this is exactly what we're speaking about. The darkness what we're seeing, we could either try to confront it or understand, as we've done since October 7th so beautifully and radiantly, that we're able to jump over this and come together as one people and celebrate as one people. However we celebrate, but we are able to jump over our past. This is a blue state, a red state, and this is this political party, this, or this belongs to this sect, or this Sephardi, Ashkenazi, West Coast, East Coast. That's all past stuff. We are given the ability to leap over this. And this is the approach, L'chatchila Riber, that don't try, what are we going to do about this darkness? The approach is, what's the highest and the most amazing thing I could do right now, and reach for that and jump for that. Because it's not a thinking positively kind of a situation. This is a reality that Hashem gives us that ability to boost ourselves. If only we jump up. We have the ability to jump and get over ourselves. Whatever has been tying us down until this point, emotionally, psychologically, intergenerational trauma, whatever it is, we're given the ability to jump and leap. So all it is just getting out of our comfort zone. And that's the hardest thing, but we are able, as soon as we do this, the Rebbe says that Mashiach is ready to come. One good thought, one good word, one good deed, and every day try to scale it upwards and encourage those around us to do the same, and encourage those around us to encourage those around them as well. And in no time, this world is going to be a world of light. Be'ezrat Hashem, Teikif Umiyad Mamish now. Shabbat Shalom.